This is For My Sons, a space where we equip men to lead themselves, their families, and their communities with strength and wisdom. I'm your host, Papa O, a father, a husband, a son, and a student of life. Here, we dive into all the topics that shape the development of men. Lessons, stories, and principles you can use to strengthen your family and impact your community. If you're passionate about becoming a better man, building a better family, and leaving a better world, you're in the right place. Let's jump into today's conversation. They say when a fish is sick, you check the water. But what happens when the water itself is poisoned and you've been drinking it your whole life? This episode isn't just about health. It's about survival. It's about silence. It's about why so many of us are carrying illnesses we never asked for. Illnesses rooted not just in what we eat or how we live, but in how we're treated, how we're seen, or more often, how we're not. We're calling this for what it is: racism as a public health crisis. And this matters because the numbers are not abstract. They are personal. They are your uncle who died too soon. They are your dad who never got that checkup. They are the black boy being told, man up, at the age of 7. They are you when your body's telling the truth, but the doctor isn't listening. This episode is not here to victimize you. It's here to empower you. Because if racism can affect your health, then you choosing to fight back by reclaiming your health is a revolutionary act. It's a message to your sons and their sons that we do not inherit brokenness. We build strength. Let's begin with what the system says. Then we'll talk about what you can do. And the Yoruba proverb of the episode is Ika ki itan lori eni ti o fi ori meji sheyin, which translates as wickedness never misses its mark when the one targeted has 2 heads behind. Systems are stacked against you will always find a way to harm you. Now, this episode is going to be packed full of stats, as I said to you in the introduction. Okay? Now, again, these stats aren't to victimize you. I've collated them together to make you aware of what you're going up against. Okay? So you can see the lay of the land. And later on in the episode, I'll definitely be able to give you some individual things you can do for yourself practically that will help. Of course, it will help you. It will help your sons. It will help your peers. It will help your nephews, your brothers, your uncles, so that you can live long enough and well enough to be able to have a positive impact on the coming generation. Major institutions now admit what our communities have long felt. Racism is not just unfair, it's unhealthy, it's fatal. In the UK, the NHS Race and Health Observatory declared that structural racism is a root cause of health inequalities. Black men are 3 times more likely to be detained under the Mental Health Act. Again, these aren't just numbers, they're reflections of who gets heard, who gets healed, and who gets written off. During COVID-19, black men in England were nearly 4 times more likely to die from the virus than their white counterparts. This wasn't genetic, it was about exposure, care, and systemic neglect. Life expectancy in many deprived areas where black communities are often concentrated is shockingly low. A man in a wealthier part of England may live up to a decade longer than a black man in an inner city borough. Globally, similar patterns emerge. In the US, hundreds of cities have declared racism a public health crisis. The CDC, AMA, and other major universities now publish work specifically on how racism deteriorates public health. But we cannot stop at recognition. So first, I'm going to start with your physical health and chronic disease. Okay? Let's talk about your body. Not the one they fear, but the one they ignore until it's too late. Let's start with hypertension and cardiovascular disease. In the UK Biobank study of over 400,000 participants, Black African men had the highest average blood pressure, which was around 138.4 over 85.1. Even when under treatment, blood pressure control was less successful compared to white men. Obesity rates among Black African men were 42.6% and 8.9% were diabetic. For context, the same rates among white British men were 23.2% and 3.8% respectively. Globally, these numbers follow the same trend. African diaspora communities in the Caribbean, US, and South America exhibit earlier onset of hypertension and increased mortality from cardiovascular diseases. Let's talk about type 2 diabetes. Black African and Caribbean men in the UK are up to 4 times more likely to develop type 2 diabetes. In sub-Saharan Africa, diabetes cases exploded from 4 million in 1980 to nearly 24 million in 2021 and are projected to hit 55 million by 2045. Men are particularly vulnerable due to late diagnosis and limited access to screening. Let's talk about chronic kidney disease. Kidney failure is up to 5 times more prevalent among black men in the UK, driven by uncontrolled hypertension and diabetes. The APOL1 gene variants, common in West African ancestry groups, increase susceptibility to kidney damage, a genetic legacy complicated by poor system-level responses. On we move to prostate cancer. Black men in England are 2 to 3 times more likely to be diagnosed with prostate cancer and twice as likely to die from it. Black men are also less likely to be offered curative treatment and more likely to be diagnosed at a late stage. Let's talk about strokes. Black men in the UK suffer strokes earlier and with more severe outcomes, often as a result of long ignored hypertension and poor post-stroke care. If we don't take control of these numbers, they will take control of our future. Now that we've spoken about physical health, let's move on to mental health and silence. Now, there are early patterns that are shown in black boys, and there's even data for this, right? At age 11, black boys often show lower rates of diagnosed mental illness than their peers, but by age 16 to 18, the statistics flip. Why? Because the pressure mounts, the stress isn't named, and the silence gets heavier. See, because racism begins early, there are studies that show that black children in UK schools are more likely to be punished, labelled as aggressive, or streamed into lower academic tracks. This isn't discipline, it's misdiagnosis of potential. Moving on to adolescent and adult mental health. The adult black population in the UK has double the rates of PTSD symptoms compared to their white British counterparts. Black men are disproportionately detained under the Mental Health Act, not due to higher illness rates alone, but because they are less likely to be offered therapy and more likely to reach crisis without early intervention. Help seeking is culturally discouraged by many communities. Talking becomes taboo, crying becomes shameful, so symptoms go underground until they explode. So to give you some global parallels, in the US, suicide rates among black boys have risen dramatically in the last decade. Studies show that discrimination raises cortisol, which is the stress hormone. It also raises blood pressure and inflammation. These changes start before adulthood. Okay? Your silence is not survival, it's suppression. And suppressed pain always finds another way to speak, either through illness, aggression, or withdrawal. Now, I just blurred out a whole bunch of statistics to you. And the reason why I did that, again, I'll keep buttressing on this point in this episode, right, is to show you what the lay of the land is to show you what the system is like. Now, I discussed on the last podcast episode that the systems are what the systems are. Okay? Now it's up to you as the individual man, you, the son, you, the brother, to take action, right? Not just for yourself, but for those around you, those that care about you, those that depend on you. Okay? So this is where it gets real. Because while policy matters, because of course I could be talking about how, we need policy changes and community engagement and stuff like that. And we do. But I'm not sure about you, but I can't, wake up tomorrow morning and instantaneously change policy. I can't do that. But as an individual, I can do something there. Okay? Your daily choices matter. And they write the true policy of your life. So I'm going to give you a couple of individual actions, right? Please, 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 don't just take these to heart. Please do them. Okay? Because again, this entire episode, right? I know we're talking about racism as a public health crisis, but really it is, now what do you do about it? Okay? This is the doing. Okay? Number 1, know your numbers, right? Book a full health check within the next week. Buy a blood pressure cuff. I have one. They don't cost that much, right? Learn to use it. Write down your results. Ask your GP about HB1AC, right? Which is your blood sugar over the last 3 months. Yeah? Ask your GP about PSA, which is about your prostate. And ask your GP about EGFR, which is about your kidney function. Okay? Track your sleep, track your appetite, and track your mood each week. Now, this all sounds like it's heavy work, but if you don't know yourself, if you don't measure yourself accordingly, how are you meant to intervene? How are you meant to change your daily activities, your actions, in order to make sure you're able to maximize life? The answer is you won't. What do they say? What gets measured gets managed. And that's what this is. That's why you need to know your numbers. Okay? Number 2, clean the plate. Right? What does that mean? This is more to do with diet. Okay? Cook one healthy meal this week. Reduce salt. Use herbs, not cubes. Right? Now, dependent on your body size, right? And this is as general, of course. Look, if you have access to a doctor that can give you this information, or diet or a nutritionist, wonderful. Go ask them. Okay? Because everybody is different. But generally, aim for 2 liters of water a day and cut sugary drinks by half. Now, for me, right, I drink around 3 liters of water a day, but that's because I'm a bit more heavy set. And I understand that, right? And it's not just the fact that I'm heavy set, it's also about my level of activity as well. It's still pretty high. So I obviously need to replenish that water. I need to be drinking as much as I possibly can. And 3 liters seems to be a sweet spot for me. If you can, swap white rice or bread for brown rice or wholemeal bread. Eat 1 fruit and 1 green veg daily, right? Add beans, fish, or lean meat. Be looking at what you're inputting into your mouth. Okay? Now, for those who are looking to lose weight, of course, 85% of fat loss is down to diet. So looking at what you're eating is extremely important. Okay? Cook with your children. Tell them why you're changing. Let them see it. Okay? And this last step I included because of the accountability aspect. Because children have no filter, right? Especially younger children. They really have no filter. And because you are their parent, they'll take your word for it. So if you say, look, I'm looking to eat healthier, let's cook something together. A, they'll enjoy the experience of cooking something with you. That's a W. And B, when they see the positive changes in you and how you're looking, they will emulate that behavior, that habit as well. Okay? Number 3, break the silence. Tell a trusted friend how you really feel today. Right? That could be anybody that you consider to be a trusted friend. Just have a conversation with somebody. Write in a journal for 5 minutes tonight, just so that you can memory dump the day. If you have a good day, great. If you don't have such a great day, fine, get it out of your system. Don't keep it bottled up. Okay? Let your son see you speak your emotions without shame. And it points to something that I was speaking about earlier on in the podcast, where I was talking about the silence and how that silence, you're just meant to man up about it. Right? I'm pretty sure it wasn't said like that. I'm pretty sure it was paraphrased another way. The point I'm trying to drive at is here, right, is that there needs to be an outlet, a healthy outlet. Okay, not just a cover up, not just as some pseudo masculine, we don't feel anything, we're impervious to pain. No, of course we want to be superheroes. We all do, even if we don't say it, we do. Because we all want to be the hero in our own story. But that doesn't mean that you bottle everything up. That's not healthy. That's never healthy. And it will always come out in an ugly manner. It could be directly through physical illness, mental illness. Look, let me give you an example. Okay? I used to be that guy. I'd keep everything bottled up inside. If I was stressed, hey man, I'm stressed. So long as nobody else is getting negatively affected by it, fine. Let me tell you what happened to me a couple of years ago. Alopecia areata. Look it up. Right? That's hair loss from so much stress. Simply because I wasn't letting it out. Okay? Now, obviously, I don't want that to be you. But what I'm saying is that when you keep everything bottled up inside, it shows up in ugly ways. I miss my hair. Right? So I wouldn't want anybody to just keep anything bottled up inside. It always shows up in an ugly manner. Number 4, move daily. Okay? Take a 20-minute walk. No phone. Breathe deep. Stretch your hips and back every evening. This is especially for those that are in corporate jobs like myself, where I'm working in an office, or I'm, on my backside for most of the day. Okay? There are enough studies to show around like how the hip flexors, their mobility, their ability to move deteriorates simply because you're sat in the same position for hours upon hours on end. You need to move. Okay, what do they say? If you don't use it, you lose it. And that includes functionality of your own body. Okay? And aim to sweat twice a week. Be that skipping, boxing, lifting weights, or dancing. Right? Now, this advice that I'm giving when it comes to moving daily, this is very much for those that are living a sedentary lifestyle. Now, if you're living an active lifestyle, then of course, you're doing enough in this area, and I salute you for it. But moving daily is important. If you can't remember the last time you went out for a walk, it's probably time for you to go for a walk. Yeah? Number 5, protect the next generation. Right? Because that's what we're doing most of this for. It's not just for yourself. It's for your legacy. Teach your child how to take a blood pressure reading. Right? Thankfully, we all have the internet. You can look this stuff up. Okay? You can look up the basics of how to take your own blood pressure. Especially as I've said, the blood pressure cuffs are now electronic. Now, I remember back in the day, because my mum's a nurse, she taught me how to do it the old school way. Yeah? I still know it. But it was important to make sure I was able to take my blood pressure by myself. And that should be something you should teach your children as well. So they become health conscious. Yeah? Show your children how to cook one healthy dish. Now, that dish could be, obviously, if you're keeping in line with what I've been talking about this season, then of course, that one healthy dish you cook will be from your heritage. If not, fine. Just for them to cook a healthy meal. Right? If you don't think that any of your meals are healthy, I'm sure that you can find healthy substitutes that will immediately make that meal a lot healthier. Okay? Explain what prostate cancer is and why it matters. Now, this is something that you most likely want to explain to your child when they have a better grasp of diseases. Right? I think it'd be pretty hard to explain to a 3-year-old what prostate cancer is. Right? Probably a bit morbid at that age as well. But most certainly, you just want to make them aware. Again, the same way I'm trying to make you aware of the lay of the land and how to navigate around it as best as you possibly can is the same thing you should be doing with your children. Okay? Let them hear you, as in let your children hear you say, I want to live long to see you grow. Because however you want to look at it, we always want our parents to be around for as long as they can be. Right? To offer that sage advice, hopefully sage advice. To give that life experience. For them to be able to enjoy the fruits of your labor and your legacy, i.e. their grandchildren. Okay? They want to be able to see 2 generations down. You want them to see 2 generations down. Because actually, I've said this to somebody before. Becoming a grandparent, especially if you've worked hard in life and you've built a pretty good life for yourself and your children, is all upside. Right? You have all of the upside of you've got enough money that you can, spend, experiences that you might not necessarily have had with your children, with your grandchildren, and your children are there also to enjoy it as well. Right? If you don't want to deal with nappies, hey man, you don't have to deal with nappies. You just tell your child, hey, look, I'm not dealing with nappies. Okay? You sort them out before they come see me. Yeah? But in order to have that conversation, you've got to live long enough to see your children grow into an adult. Okay? And number 6, connect and contribute. Call a friend and start a health challenge together. Right? It could be a friend that's in a similar position to you, so you could be encouraging each other, or it could be someone that's a couple of steps ahead of you. Right? Join a Facebook group or a WhatsApp chat focused on men's health. Now, I'm sure there are plenty of groups on Facebook that you could definitely join. Ironically enough, I actually, there is a For My Son's Facebook group community. Not sure there's that many people in it at this point in time, but that's not the point. The point is that you have somewhere that you can go where you can talk and focus on men's health. Okay? And also, support your black doctors, nutritionists, and mental health professionals. Because from the stats I've read to you, there are going to be some people that has resonated with enough where they're like, look, we need to take a closer look at this, a better look at this, and see how, I can better serve my community. But even if those people I just mentioned, the doctors and nutritionists and mental health professionals, are not black, that's not the point here. The point here is support your healthcare professionals as a whole. Okay, if you live in the UK, you understand the type of pressures that the NHS is under. If you are in the US, I am very sure the healthcare system over there isn't exactly the greatest when it comes to this level of support. All across the world, healthcare is always going to be one of the number one topics that people talk about because it's fundamental to human survival. Okay, so wherever you are in the world, support your healthcare professionals. Right? So, let me give you a little bit of a checklist recap, okay? When it comes to your blood pressure, check that every 2 weeks. When it comes to the 20-minute walk, do that daily. When it comes to reflecting and checking your mood, do that weekly. When it comes to sharing one feeling with a close friend, do that twice per week. When it comes to cooking a healthy meal, do that weekly. Drink at least 2 liters of water a day. Right? Teach your son one healthy habit so they can emulate you. And when it comes to GP screening, me personally, I'd say go biannually, right? Every 6 months. Some people, and depending on the state of your health, just the what's the word I'm looking for here? The bill of health that you get from your doctor, that could increase to being quarterly, or if the doctor's really happy, it could reduce to annually, once a year, right? But get a regular checkup. Okay? What do they say? Health is wealth. Yeah? I'm sure there are multi-millionaires and billionaires out there that are fighting for their lives, wishing that they could be healthy and trying to throw as much money at it as possible. Okay? Please, 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 please. Do what you can to keep yourself as healthy as possible, both physically and mentally. Okay? So now you know. You've heard what the data says about your body, your life, your people. You've seen how racism weaves its way into our food, our breath, our silence, and even our hospitals. But now you know what public health thinks of you. You get to decide what you think of yourself. You are not a risk factor. You're a role model. You are not a diagnosis. You are a decision. You are not the reason the system is failing. You are the reason your lineage can flourish. You could become the first in your family to live long and live well. You can be the one who changes the narrative. You can be the proof that we are not doomed by our data, we are defined by our direction. The world has measured your worth in statistics, but you can measure your legacy in choices. Right? All it takes is to start with one, right? One walk, one talk, one plate, one checkup, one sun watching. And from there, build a movement in your home. Because when you become the beacon of health, your children, your community, and your culture will automatically rise. You are not the statistic. You are the standard. Until next time. Thank you for joining me today on For My Sons. I hope today's message challenged you, encouraged you, or gave you something worth passing down. If you found value in this episode, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss a new letter, a new lesson, or a new legacy moment. Until next time, be a communications CEO. Communicate clearly, communicate early, and communicate often. This is Papa O, and I am out.